fighting. Standing by, over.
The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
ID, over. CBR Street Gang, this is all fighting. Standing by, over.
All right, let's get the microphone test out of the way here. Let me know if you can hear me across the various chats. We've got YouTube, X, and Twitch going right now. Pretty soon we will also cast on Discord directly, but for the moment, that is not up. Let me know if you can hear me okay across those various chats, and we're going to get started very shortly here. All right, let's roll. If I can find the right button to, where's my let's roll button? There it is. Oh, Jesus, I'm clipping. My apologies. Let's go. Hello and welcome to Market Madness Technical Analysis here on Landy's Crypto Corner. Today is Wednesday, April 3rd, 2024, and this is our, open live stream, open to anyone who is willing to listen to a little bit of technical analysis. For those of you that are just joining us for the first time, you may have seen yesterday's quick take TA video. Not too much has changed since that video was recorded shortly after the Wednesday or Tuesday into Wednesday candle close open here. Obviously, I'm not going to be talking as fast today, so you'll have to bear with me. Those videos are a little bit more difficult to record because I haven't had a time limit that I've imposed upon myself in a very long time. So we get to relax a little bit during the live streams. I get to interact with you guys, hear your thoughts on different price action points of interest, as well as different coins in some cases. Today, we may take a look at different altcoins if there is time, but we do want to break down kind of what's going on with Bitcoin right now. You know, Bitcoin on the daily has come down to that lower first standard deviation of the Bollinger Bands. You know, we were looking for this move, quite frankly, if Bitcoin started to close 4 and 6 hour candles below this low wick of that consolidation range here. That was coming in around 68,369. Nice. And of course, the other criteria was losing the daily basis band on any medium-term time frame below the daily, like a 4 or 6 hour. Then we were looking for a move down to somewhere around the lower first standard deviation at roughly $65,500 to $65,000 deviations under our fair game. But we did see the close come in there around 65,464. That's where the close open came in. We do have some wicks below around 64,500. And of course, if Bitcoin did start closing 4 or 6 hour candles below there, we step down our downside areas of interest to this close open high or low structure here at around 63,800 to that lower second standard deviation around 62,500. Actually, it's 62,500 even right now. If Bitcoin did start to close below the lower second standard deviation and specifically lose this wick low, there is support just below price action here. We could take a look at that by turning on our weekly and monthly support and resistance zones of interest here. These are historical areas of support and resistance. And in this case, we can see that the $65,000 area is the April 2021 all-time high before the $69,000 all-time high that was put in November of 2021 there during Bitcoin's double top phase in the last market cycle. And in this case, just below there, if Bitcoin did start to lose that lower second and this higher low wick, then I would be looking for it to run right back into this monthly support zone that was, well, quite frankly, not really tested very thoroughly as resistance, but just tested as support, which is good. That's bullish. This is coming in at the monthly closing all-time highs. These also happen to be quarterly closes. And in this case, we have the 61,350 to 58.8 zone. I think actually the 58.8 might be the quarterly. We can go double check that in just a moment. But either way, this is the support zone that I'd be looking for expansion into on the daily. And that would be the primary area of interest within this overall consolidation structure that Bitcoin is painting right now. There is a lot of hyperbole out there about, well, it's distribution, obviously. And, one of the bigger things that I would point out is, yes, there is bearish divergence that has been forming and confirmed on the daily. But, that's primarily where everybody's talking about distribution already, right? Triple top, really? Okay, we'll play that game. But let's look at the weekly, though. Hey, if it loads here, we could see that, yeah, long-term bearish divergence, but you want to see in-trend bearish divergence developing on the weekly. There is no in-trend bearish divergence currently. There can be an argument made for this little bit of a stutter step here. This is not valid. That's not valid. I'm sorry. Like it's valid for a pullback. You see RSI is trading down below the critical zone. It hit one of the user critical alerts here, which is currently coming in. If Bitcoin were to head back up towards that yellow dotted line there, we're looking at $69,000 again. No, that's the user alerts. It would be 71.8 at that user alert, which is, the range that it just rejected from around 71.8 to 72K. And, even to go back into the bull critical zone, that's $69,000. Nice. To exit the bullish control zone, we're looking at 58,900. It's basically $59,000 down here. That would be roughly looking into that zone of support down below price action here. But I do want to call your attention to this directly below price action. Not only is there a longer term time frame area of interest in terms of support and resistance, and again, Bitcoin hasn't even broken down on the daily yet, as far as we have been able to observe on any real major term time frame since this breakdown back here, which was a wick into that monthly zone. But just below there, we have the weekly upper first standard deviation of the Bollinger Bands here, so a volatility level of importance there, coming in right around that daily higher low structure that was in here. And quite frankly, that's almost bang on. That's 62,350 right there at the upper first. Below there, then we have to look to the support area at 61. This is 62,350 rather at the upper first. 61,350 is going to be the monthly closing high from October of 2021 down to that 58.8 monthly closing high that was put in March of 2021. So you've got the first pump, second pump. That both resulted in closing highs, so being set, and that's pretty major actually. So these are the big areas of interest to look for if the upper first is lost on like a daily time frame and or a weekly. You can even swing down into this zone. Now, if Bitcoin starts closing a daily in any higher term time frames below 58.8, you can see on the weekly, I know that people are looking for the meme pullback. They're looking for that 20 to 22%, that consistent pullback that Bitcoin has been doing since it put in its macro low at $15,500 for spot price action. Quite frankly, I'd be looking lower on any daily closes unless it just rounded right back in and reclaimed that 58.8 monthly. I'd be looking down to this $53,000 weekly. This is a historical weekly. Now you see that Bitcoin paused here in recent history. So this weekly swing high at $53,000 is from September of 2021. Bitcoin paused there for 2 weeks before moving through. And you can see just below there is the actual weekly closes from August of 2021 and December of 2021. Respectively, those are closing candle highs there. We can see that Bitcoin held that area as support. What do we have in the current weekly? Bollinger Band volatility set. Well, we have the basis band right there at the weekly, coming in at the bottom side weekly at 50,800 on the dot. It's not actually on the dot. It's like $40 above, but we're gonna call it on the dot for the sake of macro time frames like a weekly. And this is a logical area to look only if Bitcoin meets the conditions. Daily and some higher term time frame price action closes below 58.8. Anything in between 58.8 and a swing down below and maybe do the meme pullback at 20 to 22% into that $56,000 to $58,000 area is perfectly fine as long as it's closing in that monthly zone. If it begins to lose it, then we're looking down further. Now, Bitcoin is still playing in the $65,000 to $69,000 zone. So it has not met the criteria to even go down and test this just yet. Is it threatening? Absolutely. Does it look really bearish? Absolutely, in terms of some of the lower term time frame setups to go down and test that monthly. But until we actually see like a concerted effort to close below $65,000 on a 4-hour time frame, which let's just take a look at this. How beautiful is this on the 4-hour? So we just went from a weekly to a 4-hour because I want to illustrate a point. I have been getting messages from people saying like, look, it's gonna go down. It's gonna go down and it's gonna go down hard. You could see it. All the signals are there. Momentum is shifted and there's bearish sentiment. And I'm like, where's the bearish sentiment? I don't know where that is. But, everything else up to that point was you were on the right path. I'm not really sure about the bearish sentiment, though. Maybe people are forcing a bearish sentiment. And in this case, until we see Bitcoin close below $65,000, which, hey, we got to close open right on it. Yes, there's a little bit of a deviation here because price was moving pretty fast there. So I would say the close opens right on it. This one closed slightly below at 64,895. So it was about $4 under, but the open actually came in at 64,900. And that is actually $1 above this. It's actually coming in at 64,899 as the April of 2021 monthly swing high. So that's enough of a deviation between the two. There was slippage there on the fills. It even came back down and ran this area down to 64,500, but hasn't yet closed below. I need to see a 4-hour close below. And now it needs to meet additional criteria. Not only do I need to see a 4-hour close below $65,000 or so, I need to see this wick low drop. This is the lowest low of this particular move down. Then I can start looking a little bit further down. You can see on the 4-hour here, the lower second standard deviation is coming in at 63,500. That's a perfectly logical area to look if 64,500 is dropped. Below there, you can see the lower third standard deviation on the 4-hour time frame. Hey, look, it's lining up with a major support area. You're going to see this over and over again. You're going to find confluences with bands and support and resistance and fibs and momentum pivots and like all that stuff. It's because of how math works, because everything is based on the auction that's currently happening in the market. The math is going to work out where you have well-refined tools. They should line up in major areas. And we see that the lower third standard deviation, which is rarely hit, to be fair, you usually will get a replacement lower second to lower third unless things get really aggressive, in which case it could get hit. But you see it's coming in right there at around 61,400, right skating across the top of that October of 2021 monthly close at 61,350. So we've got tons of confluences all over the place for a downside move, but I should say a further downside move, right? But in this case, it needs to meet the conditions. Close below 65, start losing that 64,500. Game on. Game on to go test down further. For now, Bitcoin's playing in $65,000 to $69,000. It can hit both sides of this. It can deviate both sides of it. And until it actually, breaks down from this major area at 58.8 down there that we talked about, and or it breaks the $69,000 area and then goes and starts to close above the consolidation up here at around $71,800 to $72,000, then we can start looking back to the all-time highs, at 73,800 or whatever. But until then, it's just a range bound market. I do believe that Bitcoin is setting up for a much larger move. Now, that doesn't rule out that Bitcoin doesn't have a large move down before a massive move to the upside. I still think that we are in that kind of risky territory if you are long only. In this case, I'm still swing long from many of the areas that we've spoken about before. I did take a short position. It met the criteria, so I'm gonna take the position to hedge, and it pales in comparison to the swing longs I have on. And me personally, I'm not. My swing longs aren't in this range, so I'm unaffected. Anything that comes down further is all good with me. So I actually want to see it come down further. So I really want this to fall to somewhere around 53 to 50K. That is a gift. I would love it. But quite frankly, I can't look for it until we see the criteria met. So I did want to address some of that because yes, the bearish divergences, the momentum shifts, the sentiment of like, oh, we're all on pins and needles now before the halving is starting to set in. People are getting impatient. You got profit takers in these zones. You've got people that are longing max leverage in these zones that are getting their asses kicked. But quite frankly, it's a little bit of play the zoom out game, right? So let's go look at that monthly. So the monthly did something very, very simple. And that is that it came back and it tapped on the upper second standard deviation to start April. On April Fool's Day, we saw the nice close above the upper second and third on the monthly, came back, tapped on $65,000, deviated a little bit under, and hit the upper second standard deviation on the monthly. Bitcoin honestly has tons of room to come down and still remain bullish. And that would be closing through all of those support areas that I just talked about, coming all the way back down to 53 to 50K, and then tapping on that upper first standard deviation. So you want a worst case scenario? $49,000, 48,500. That is probably a worst case scenario. Maybe even a shoot through with a wick down to $45,500 to $47,000. There's your worst case scenario. Everyone would be crying. There'd be blood in the streets. People screaming. The bears going 12K, 12K, 10K, 8K, 0, bitch. But it's not going to happen. That would be a perfectly healthy pullback in the context of a monthly. And quite frankly, that has been observed before in prior run-ups, is a move to that upper first standard deviation and sometimes through it. So let's go through a few of those actually. Let's go up to the index in this case, and let's say, Landy, I don't think you're right. You're a crazy person. Well, let's go test that. Oh, we have a bull run over here that started upon the closure of this candle here in October of 2020. Now, in October of 2020, that kicked off expansion. You can see the downside expansion of the bands and the more aggressive upside expansive posture of the Bollinger Bands here. You see the close open came in around that upper first standard deviation of the Bollinger Bands. Nice little wick down, close above the upper second and third standard deviation, kicking off more aggressive expansion to the upside. And then Bitcoin came down in December of 2020, nearly getting, well, at the time, there was quite a large difference because the price point in which this was at was about $17,000, $16,950, where the upper first was. That wick came in about $1,000 above, a little bit more to be fair, about $500 to $600 above, actually, sorry. And then it dipped down towards that upper first standard deviation, took off, closed above the upper second and third. Then you had a real evil looking candle over here that started off January of 2021. We had a nice run up to about $42,000. And, it was a stressful month. We had the close open. We had the nice run up. We did have a dip towards that upper second standard deviation. We had the nice run up and then close open and started to dip below that upper second and then move above it, upper second and third, upper second and third. Big wicks. And I will not lie. I shouldn't continue that one, actually. Now, then we had a big move down to the upper first. My point is, though, after Bitcoin moved above the upper second, and even closing above the upper third standard deviation, we still got price movements below that upper second towards that upper first. And in some cases, we have seen it even tag. Now, the most beautiful bull run of all time in Bitcoin happened from 2015 lows. So we had the 14 and 15 double bottom. Nice little washout wick there. You have Landy getting wrecked somewhere in here. I blew up an account because I was a little too aggressive. Even though I knew what I was talking about, I didn't take my own damn advice. Blew up an account in 2015 into 2016, sometime around there when I was a little too aggressive. So one of these candles was me getting an account absolutely slaughtered. But I was able to rebuild very quickly upon the compression to re-expansion. I rode this all the way to the tops in 2017. I've been in the game for a long time, but just because you've been in the game for a long time, you know this stuff like the back of your hand. If you don't trade it in the way that you know it, and instead you let your emotions take over, you will get wrecked, especially if you're cocky in these markets. They will humble you very quickly. Now, this happens in traditional markets too. The difference is you can readjust with options. And I actually did not take a big L in traditional markets, but I did take a big L on one particular account on exchanges in 2015 to 2016. I then rode this all the way up. Now, this is a monthly, mind you. We had the close above the upper second standard deviation in Sunday, May 1st of 2016. I want to say this is where I was looking for the expansion somewhere around here. I was way over leveraged. Man, how stupid was that? I still look back and like cringe, like, man, I knew better too, but whatever. Believe the expansion came back down. You had an upper second close, not an upper third, came back down and did what? Oh, hey, it spiked right through. This was just the beginning of expansion, by the way, in 2016. Came and spiked down through the upper first standard deviation after kicking off that expansion, then played between the upper first and upper second, kept spiking down towards that upper first, closing above the upper second, spike down towards the upper first, close above the upper second, and then really get rolling, go sideways for a bit in terms of closes, and then boom, down, tapping around near that upper first. Again, price action up, come right back down, towards the upper first, price action up, 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 and then we finally get a little bit of a reversal setup. That was pretty easy to identify on the weekly time frames. So, so would it be over? It's over, man. It's all over. Crypto's dead. The big bankers, they got involved and they killed it all. BlackRock bought all the Bitcoin, because Larry Fink is just sitting there with all of these cold wallets in his lap, just looking at them, laughing, going, I'm going to fork the network real hard. Failing to understand that it's actually assets under management and they don't really have control. That's why they market and they push to educate advisors and firms and people who actually are licensed individuals that sell their products. So, yeah, it's not as big an evil and as, crazy as many make it out to seem. In reality, it's assets under management. All these different companies, they do have agendas and they can invest and push portfolio management a certain direction. And in this case, you want to see them pushing in the Bitcoin direction more and more and more. So, could it come down to the upper first? Absolutely. Is that my first take on price action right now? No, that should be clear from what I was just talking about before. Until we see closes below 58.8, not really looking for it. Sorry. I know a lot of people still like, man, it's over. Maybe it pumps up and it runs the highs again and then has a nice big dip down. That'd be cool. I would like that. I'd enjoy that. That's a nice little volatile move back to the upside and then downside. Maybe it just shoots straight through supports right now. Well, let's go ahead and take a look and see what the likelihood of that happening is on some of those lower term timeframes like that 4 hour. So let's go back to that 4 hour. And again, guys, so if you're just joining me and you're not familiar with my style, kind of the way that I do things on the live streams, I bounce around all over the place. This is a free form flowing conversation with you guys. I do want your feedback. I do open it up to the chat to take a look through, see what you guys are talking about. We're not like in some of the videos that you might have seen in the lead up to this. If you have never joined one of my live streams before, this is just a conversation versus there. I'm giving you my thoughts, kind of point by point for price action. So if you are just interested in that, you can refer to those recorded videos, which I've now changed the format a bit to quick take TA, keeping them generally under 10 minutes is what I'd like to aim for here. But in this case, we're just chilling and chatting. And I do want you guys to get a little bit more involved. So if you are in one of the chats and you are experiencing issues chatting, I do suggest that you head on over to the YouTube chats, because YouTube does not have some of the same issues that X.com seems to be having with some of the chat stuff. I don't have any filters. It says like moderator limited, like chatting yet. I haven't done anything. So I have, in fact, opened the chat to everyone and anyone. I even went in today and double checked, but I'm still getting like messages right now on Twitter like, hey, I'm trying to chat in X and I can't chat. I can't do anything about it. I think it's just they're still working on the platform for streaming. So head on over to X. I'm sorry, if you're on X, I would head on over to one. It's better bit rate, better quality on YouTube, but at least right now, I see that. Oh, you're here. Is that Cheryl? It is. Hi, Cheryl. She can chat. Others are trying to chat. They're messaging me right now, like, "Hey, I'm trying to chat on X. Why are you limiting me, bro?" And it's like I can't do any. I have no moderation controls of that chat. It seems pretty random. Some people can chat. I think where's Baba? Baba's here. Him and his cousin cousin or brother. I don't remember. They were sitting next to each other. One could chat, one couldn't. It's like, I have no idea. But yeah, if you would like to chat, come on over to the YouTube channel. Go ahead and hit subscribe. That does help the channel. All of this information is free. Everything I talk about is free. Indicators free. I don't have any courses to sell you. In fact, I do have some TA courses that are going to be posted to YouTube and X that are going to be free as well, for the basics of technical analysis and then how to use my indicator that I am still in the process of building. So yes, it's a perpetual coming soon, but it's usable right now. So you can go find that in the link on my X profile. It's also in the link in the video description down below. Let's go ahead and talk about this 4 hour. Oh my God, it's over, guys. Oh, geez, look at that. It's got red DMI. This is the KVDB Advanced Stochastic from app.crontrading.net. I think they still sell it over there if you wanted to go pay developers for an indicator that if you're not going to use, don't do that. There is a free version of these types of indicators. The Advanced Stoch here is a regular Stoch. You can also get, there's quite a few free ones. There's the BA Reverse Stoch panel. You can just search that in the indicators section up there. This is a free Stoch that has pivots. So they're both going to say the same thing right now. But in this case, 65,390. So basically 65.4. Bitcoin starts closing below there. We will see an initial cross back down. Likely we see Bitcoin playing towards that 65,000 to 64,500 area again. Now, in this case, we can see that we've got the red graph of doom, the red dot of doom up here. This is called DMI. And then we have ADX, or strength of trend. And in this case, ignore it. It doesn't matter. It is a little bit bearish right now, but it's always bearish on the lows before it turns into wonderful bullishness as it starts to push back to the highs. To be quite honest, 4 hour looks okay in terms of momentum right now. If it can hold the upper half of $65,000 over the next closure, it's getting a little tight though. It's starting to put in a swing high here, threatening. It already kind of did a swing or a closing low, or high rather. Jesus, closing low to closing lower high, rather. I would say if it starts to break down from this close open here, there's a little bit of a 4-hour order block candle right here. For those of you on the super crunchy stream over there on X, I'll try to zoom in. There is a bit of an order block here. If it drops this close open between this bear candle order block and the bull candle here towards the lower first, we have a close there of around 65,464 again. So we did see this just get tapped on a little while ago in this current 4-hour candle. If that area is closed below, we're looking at 65 to 64,500, possibly lower down into the mid to upper $63,000 area. Again, there is that 63,800 area to be aware of. I would say that 64K gets dropped and this wick low gets dropped around 63,800. Though it's moving down towards that towards no man's land between roughly 62.5, that lower second on the daily, so on and so forth. Possibly that monthly down there at 61,350 and into the monthly zone. Now, you might say, Stoke has pointed up, though. Pressure's up. Well, trend isn't. And it just put in a nice swing high. You're going to see this confirm as closing highs as well on most indicators like this RSI up here. And in this case, it is crossed back down below the moving average. I want to see bullish divergence put in. That only occurs on lower lows with higher lows on RSI. So, it would not be out of the question to come down to at least mid to upper 63s. And actually, I wouldn't mind that. I am a big fan of this particular setup when looking at volatility. Expansion to the downside, and then a bounce back up, a failure, and then a retest of that lower second wherever it ends up. In this case right now, it's at 63,500. And again, daily closes back above $65,000, even if it dipped all the way down there, just fine. Run that higher low area would be perfectly fine. If it does start to lose that area, then we're looking down to where that lower third is. But in this case, I see BBWP at 67 over 71. It would increase again if Bitcoin started to move down towards that lower second standard deviation, but that's one of my favorite damn setups. Now, that's a counter trend trade for me, not financial advice. Do your own research, all that good stuff. In this case, you're trading against the trend. So, but it's one of my favorite volatility reversal points. And, if you miss it, you miss it. And it's got a high hit rate, though, for reversals. At minimum, beautiful bounces between the lower second and lower first here, which we've only seen the initial expansion down. So I do actually want to see a retest. But if it comes down at just double bottom somewhere around 64, 64.5, closes inside of these wicks at 64.5 and regains $65,000, I would actually be looking a little bit further up. We did see this little order block zone dropped and retested, right? So we saw the close open right on it on the move down, right at that low. And that is at 66,800. We have since seen that get tested again. So there was a retest there. So move back down, not out of the question. But if it does hold the lower first here coming in at 65, 650, and can regain this block, this little bit of a pit stop, a little bit of an order block zone before the move up to consolidate above 69K, I would give it some room to the basis band. You can see that is currently lining up with this high right here. And this close open structure roughly around 67,700. That happens to have confluence with no longer confluence. It's actually a little bit lower because Bitcoin's been playing around. But if Bitcoin starts to move towards the daily basis band, that would be the 4-hour basis band as well. Somewhere around 67,500 to 67,800 or so. If it can recover above there, I would be looking for a test back up to $69,000, roughly speaking, maybe even to $70,000. If it can regain $70,000, we're looking to the upside. We're looking back to this consolidation around the upper first, around 70,200 up here on the daily. Then the closing highs up here of this consolidation around 71,300 to 71,800 at the wicks, possibly $72,000 at this close open. If it can get above there, then we're looking at the highs, possibly higher again, around 73 to 73,800 or so, roughly speaking. Above there, we're looking for expansion to the upside. Right now, Bitcoin's set up for a range. Probably, even if it gets up there, probably going to find significant resistance around 72,800 to 73. If it heads down, probably going to find at least lower term time frame supports around that $62,500, $62,000 by this wick low of this last higher low. So pretty easy when you define the criteria, actually. Now, you can see that if Bitcoin did start to close back above this 4-hour basis band, which has rough confluence right now within a couple $100 of the daily basis band, you can see that I would be looking right up here because we would be passing just about all of this here. Around 68,500 to 69K would be the primary upside target. Above there, the upper first standard deviation, which I do expect to move down here in the next 35 minutes towards around 69.5 or so. It's currently at 69.9. It may even start coming in right towards that $69,000. Basis will also move down in the next close here. So that is generally the outlook I have for Bitcoin. Now, on the other side of that, the really bullish scenario is on the daily, it holds 65K, maybe swings down, but continues to start, closing and recovering back above 69. If it did that, we can get a bit of confluence, especially upon taking out this lower high structure now around that 71,800 to 72K. I would be looking for the highs and higher on the table as upside possibilities. And we can get areas of interest if the all-time high is broken from here. And we can just pull this out to a weekly to do this. We can pull a fib. You guys have seen this. Actually, let's pull the daily. You can do this both ways. We're going to pull the daily first, and then we're going to pull the weekly and compare. So when looking at monthly support and resistance, we can turn that off. And we can take the swing high, swing low of this particular move. You can take it this way, which is the weekly swing high to swing low so far, or you can take this one for the daily. And that would put Bitcoin at around, on a breakout, above 73,835 or so, around the upper third by $75,000 to that 1272 up there by 78 to 78,400. Above there, the 1414 by $80 to $81,000. And then the 618 being a primary area of interest at $84,600 to $85,000, and then the 1786 just shy of 88. We've got the 1888 just shy of 90 at 89,800, and then we've got the 2 spot up there at 92. So roughly, I would be looking 75 to 78, 78 to 80. 80 to the mid to low 80s. And then above there, of course, we start looking deeper 80s to 90s. So that would be the more bullish scenario from a fib pull like this. So let's compare that to the weekly swing structure as it currently stands. If Bitcoin were to do this in this manner, we can see that we're going to get confluences as well. So got the 1272 coming in just shy of $78,000 at 77,851. Got the 1414 coming in at $80,000 to the 1618 in the low 80s at 83, 277 in this case. We've got the upper third coming in right around, or just under, I should say, that 1786 there at $86,000, 888 coming in at 87, 2 spot coming in at 90. So you can see that the confluences are roughly lined up with those areas. And quite frankly, a wider pullback, right, would actually, even down to the upper first, would extend those targets a bit, right? Or even lower down into the mid 50s. Maybe it does the meme pullback to like 56, 57. It would extend those targets 1272 to 79, 1414 to 82, 1618 to still right around that upper third, 85 to 86,500. But That's pure speculation on that particular fib pull. Something I do want to call your attention to is the 12-hour. 12-hour can give you some clues as to what's coming on the daily. So the 12-hour momentum setup is one of my favorites. When coming down and testing in and around the lower second and third. Any closures below, we would see significant expansion to the downside, but I do want to call out a few things here. There's bullish divergence that is available to Bitcoin in this area if it does put in a low. How would it put in a low? Right now, it needs to close a 12-hour above this wick high from the second, which is yesterday, at around 66,281. So basically 66.3, close above there. And we would see a low populated in terms of a close and a swing. We kind of already have the swing low set. No, not yet. Need to see that close above 66,281, 66.3. Then the swing and the close would be set. Now that would initiate a drive of hidden bullish divergence. That would be from, no, actually no. No, it would populate hidden bullish divergence. It would be from this guy right here. So it would be from this low right here, which is the low that's coming in on that wick around 62,260, with that close coming in around 63,800. So if it does set a low above 63,800 to 62,260 to 500 or so, then we're going to see a low set. Bullish divergence populate, likely targeting at least, upper 60s to 69, maybe even $70,000. But on the flip side of this particular move, we also want to look for it to confirm with a Stokes shift. In this case, probably looking for the number becoming a little bit more attractive later today if Bitcoin can hold $65,000 to 64,500. Right now, to turn Stoke back up initially, that would be an initial cross, K over D, we would need to see 69,221. This is probably going to significantly come down somewhere in the $67,000 to $68,000 region at first, and then we look to tomorrow's candle for this to update more aggressively if Bitcoin continues to hold the lows here. If it drops them, this is going to get continuation to the downside. That number is fairly far away, but I do want to draw your attention to the 8-hour possible setup here. Any closures above $66,000 by end of day today on the 8-hour. We would be looking at a Stokes shift, not a full Stokes shift, but at least an initial cross back up. If we do see a close above 66 on the 8-hour, we see the 6 hours already crossed up. It's not fully confirmed yet either. This will confirm in 4 hours and 30 minutes. So with this next 4-hour closure, we're going to start seeing this update a little bit. If it can hold the zone, you can see lower second standard deviations right around the current wick lows at 64,500. So it would need to hold that. Expansion retest, one of my favorites. Could even deviate it as long as it's holding it on a close at around 64,500. And actually, it's below there, so it can swing it. 64, 267, 269, nice. Any close above 65, 430, 440, I would just call it 65.5. And we would see Bitcoin get a momentum shift back to the upside on the 6-hour. We can see the 4-hour is already flipped up, as I noted earlier, but any close below 65,400 in the next 30 minutes. And this is going to update probably more aggressively right on top of price. So kind of needs to get going to the upside here pretty soon. Everything right now is pointing towards a little bit more consolidation before we see resolution either to the downside or a nice move to try and retest the upside. That is my primary take on Bitcoin right now. Let me go ahead and flip this over to the absolute degenerate chart. This would be the 30-second chart for all you degens out there. And we can observe this while I turn the music back up and read through the chats. We do have a pretty active chat over here right now on YouTube. And let's go ahead and do that. We'll start wherever this left off. We'll get this turned up a little bit. I got to use my keyboard. I'm not at my regular computer right now, so I'm going to bring that up a little bit. You can let me know if it's competing too much with my voice in the chats there, but this will give me some cover while I read the chat and say hi to you guys and gals. All right, so we've got Bobby. Hello, Baba. How you doing? Jedi's here. Good to see you. Sam is here. Don Renee is here. Cheryl is here, and a few others are here. I got many of you that are watching, but only a few of you chatting right now. That's okay. Let's go ahead and take a look at what you're chatting about. YouTube is clear and fine. Don, I'm glad to see you here, sir. I'm glad you're doing well. We need to get the other Don in here pretty soon. He is he's been handling real life stuff for a little bit. Hopefully he comes back soon. Geez. Okay, so Don would like to see some USDT and Dixie. So he wants to see USDT dominance, which is probably making a low, trying to set a low. But we'll look at it in just a moment. Cheryl hopped over here. Yep, Bobby reiterating Dixie would be great. USDT. Silver's looking interesting to me. Not trading, just noticing. You're a noticer. Gold went up. Yep. Gold is in price discovery. It is, yeah. But it's a little ways. It's got work to do. And I think if anything, gold's going to retest highs. We can take a look at those though. Current percent level last time it was low was in 2022. I wouldn't make the same comparisons to 2022, but we will look at it and I'll talk about it. All right, so Cheryl's like, taxes. Yeah, taxes. Shit. Yeah, taxes have not been fun. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at USDT. So one of the big things and one of the big mistakes that many are going to make with USDT is Bitcoin's in the middle of a really big time period in terms of just before the halving and just post halving, where you have a lot of jockeying for position. You've had alts rallying their faces off relative to where they were, even though it is not even alt season yet. But you know, is it in the midst of making a major reversal? Possible. It is possible. But let's go look at the longer term time frame for USDT, and you can see that much like Bitcoin is trading above the upper second standard deviation on the monthly, and even towards and above that upper third, that USDT is getting expansion to the downside here. And USDT has a little bit more competition now. People are using Solana and USDC and like all these other different mechanisms for getting money in and out and moving money around. Trading pairs have been a little bit more robust as well across many exchanges, as you know, we're getting into the deeper part of crypto's history here. We're like, you know, we're still crypto is still a little toddler, but it's starting to grow up. And in this case, you know, it's hitting right around a major support level at this low over here at 3.93% to the wicks here at around 3.75%. Hitting that area and getting a bounce is no big deal. It's pretty deep down there in terms of its monthly. And its monthly is pivoted at 4.25%. So could it turn back up? Yeah, I think it's going to turn back up in a bearish manner, though, when you start looking at the 2 month. Heavily down, below 7.6%. Quarterly, heavily down below 7.64%. So, it's pressure down across all time frames. Could the weekly bounce? Nice double bottom, nice momentum divergence. It's got to put in a weekly low. Could it do that this week? Sure, it could. I'd need to see it closing above right where it is now, around 4.33%. And then it's got to take out the wick high at about that 4.7 to 4.75%, get back above the lower first, and it's going to find significant resistance around 5 to 5.65%, that red line up there. Is it primed to do it? Sure, yeah. Is Bitcoin primed to move further to the downside in terms of looking at the weekly? Yeah, it's possible. But this is a very strong downtrend. I would expect with this new pressure in the market from spot buying on the ETF side of things. I know the Grayscale and they're distributing. Look, everything's going on just after the close of the year into this year is all positioning for taxes next year when you're looking at ETFs. So mitigating management fees from Grayscale and scaling out of Grayscale into some of these other ETFs with lower management fees is much more attractive. Became much more attractive as soon as they launched after January's open. So, I would look at this as bearish bounces. Definitely possible. Does that result in Bitcoin going down further and breaking the range? Maybe it hits some of those deeper targets we were talking about. Daily looks pretty good too to head back up, but it's kind of in the middle. It's kind of in no man's land. Pretty easy above the upper second. If it takes out 4.69 to 4.7%, it's going to move up minimum to 5%, maybe even 5.65 on expansion. If it begins to close below the lower first and lose the lower second and start to break down from 3.78, then I'd be looking for this to come down further. Bitcoin's likely rallying. Altcoins are likely following it. Maybe not to the same degree versus their Bitcoin pairs. Some will even outrun it. But in this case, not too concerned about any of this. ETFs are a game changer, Cheryl. Now, the momentum shift is already in play here. It's already occurred. Low is already in. It is not coming on any type of bullish divergence currently. You might have some longer term bull divs. Might even have some populating on the weekly here. No, actually there is not. So I do need to see multiple drives of bullish divergence to really start looking for a full-on reversal in USDT and a flood of liquidity moving back to USDT. In this case, this is all short-term stuff. You can see the 4-hour, looking a little like it wants to double tap the highs up here, maybe even push a little bit higher towards that upper second at 4.5% or so. If it starts to do that and break out, we'd be looking for the rally to continue to about 4.7 at the local high areas that I just pointed out on the lows. That would then maybe fulfill criteria to hit 5 to 5.65%. Now, that's a big move for USDT. On the other side of that, if it starts to bearishly close and or begin to lower high its way down, and specifically start closing back below 4.26 to 4.27%, we're looking for this to eventually head down to about 4.2% and then 4% respectively by the lower first. Closes below 4.377%. Will keep pressure to the downside. But in the context of this trying to put in a swing low and a closing low on the 4-hour, it's pointing towards more consolidation. Bitcoin probably hangs around 65. It starts to break down, you're going to see this go up. Pretty easy. In terms of the macro, I'm not concerned about it right now. Bigger moves down, I'm not concerned about in Bitcoin either. Bigger moves up in USDT, I'm not concerned about that. The longer term timeframes look primed coming into the halving for a big event. Does that mean a big event to the downside first before a big event to the upside? Sure, maybe. It's got to meet the conditions though. And I wouldn't be comparing like, when USDT was here and reversed, Bitcoin dropped 70%. I wouldn't be comparing it because they're two different market cycles. We're not seeing exhaustion on Bitcoin. and we're not seeing exhaustion to the downside on USDT yet. When it does start to meet those conditions, I will give you a heads up. But for the moment, it's fine. Let's go ahead and look at Dixie. Still playing around some of the bigger areas, and guess what? It hit one of our major areas that we talked about previously. It hit that 105. So it did reject 105. It's trying to hold on to 104.26. If it loses it, we're looking for, a breakdown below this wick low at 104 to then move back to around 103.75 below there. 103.75 to 103.80 below there. Then we start looking at 103.23 to 103 even. Below there, we're looking right back to this low side structure around around 102.5 to 102.35. That was to be dropped. Then we're looking at 102 even, and then the upper 101 area, and see how it reacts there. Daily's looking like it wants to flop over in terms of momentum and continue its downside if it continues to close below 104.84 today. Looking at the weekly though, the weekly isn't dead yet. 104.30 would turn it down this week, so I would pay attention. It is playing around that momentum pivot on the weekly. This is looking like it's setting up for a range between around 105 to 106 on the high side and 101.50 to 102 on the downside. So nothing of interest just yet. It's going to take a little while for this to develop, and then we come back to it. Not anything too crazy or interesting right now. 2 month is, 105.63 would turn it back up. Quarterly is 103. So do be aware of that. That would turn it back up. I would need to see an additional close for it to confirm on the quarterly, and it's got to close back above 107.34 to really do anything interesting to the upside again on the quarterly, which is a long-term time frame and would be very, very bearish for traditional markets. But with the ETFs in play, I think that will change the structure of Bitcoin, because traditional markets start falling apart. You're going to see a run to gold and Bitcoin in this case, because of the dynamics of having the ETFs available and the way in which they're being marketed as a gold-like asset. When looking at gold, gold is actually doing a lot better than I thought. This looks fucking amazing, and it hit our upside targets. It hit it hit our upside targets. Yeah, I didn't even look, and I have plenty of gold. I'm in a gold trade. I probably should have checked on that, huh? The gold trade is a options trade, so it's I'm not checking on it day to day, but it did hit 2,300. So that was one of our primary targets to the upside. It's getting expansion right now. Upper third is around 2316. We could even see it outrun that. That looks really good. Wow. Thank you for bringing that up. 2232 to keep momentum to the upside. Very good. Beware of bearish divergence on the other side if it fails to break this RSI high here at around 84 to 85. So we do need to see closures up there, above there, in order to avoid bearish divergence on gold right now. This is a beautiful move. Wow. Peter Schiff must be shifting himself right now. Good on him, right? He can go and he can start trolling those XRP guys now. Tell them, hey guys, just hold on a little bit longer. Rainbow currency's coming, guys. Don't worry. Yeah, let's see. The critical user alert high is at 2360. So if it pushes up another 50 to 60 bucks, that will put it up around this yellow line around an 88 read. It could even get hotter than that if it wanted. Weekly, fucking beautiful. This is an RSI break. This is beautiful. Let's look at the bullish control zone up there, the critical zone, 2400. So that'd be the next area, 2350 to 2400. Stoked is skyward. Nice green DMI here. 2160 is the number to turn that back down this week. So this looks very good. This is continuation off of a beautiful mean reversion back to the basis band, and then sky that shit. Looks good, looks good. Silver acting much the same. This is a fresh breakout this week, but it's got 28 to 30 to contend with. If it can start closing, it's got to close the end of the week above 26.10. But 20 to 30 is going to be the big area. If it starts to break out above there, then we're looking for a nice run. Let's look at the monthly real quick on silver. We haven't done this in a long time. Let's take the highs from 2011 and bring them down to the swing lows here. Yeah, 618's right at $28. Above there, 28 to 30. Then we're starting to look 35 to 36 by the 786. Above there, 40 to 42 at the 888, and then a run at that high at around 49 to $50. If it were to break out above there on the monthly time frame, we're looking at 74 to 92, and then possibly 100 to $125 by the 1618. I don't know if that's what we're seeing, but this looks very good for silver as well. I still need to see it closing above $30 in the weekly though. I actively trade gold, not really silver. I own silver. I'm a regular buyer of silver still, and I'm a regular buyer of gold. But Bitcoin's the place to be, in my opinion. Buying physical gold at 280 and selling for 6. That's a good flip. Made more than 100%. I mean, you 2x'd it, a little bit more than 2x, but that's really good for gold. Oh yeah, I'm looking now on my phone here. My options contracts on gold are freaking baller. Holy shit. Been concentrating on Bitcoin so much I wasn't even paying attention. Yeah, it looks it was the new quarterly. Man, glad I put that in on the new quarterly. Sweet. I mean, last we looked, we were seeing the compression to re-expansion to the upside anyway on the daily, so I was pretty confident it was going to at least go to the highs and possibly test higher and hit our 2300 target. Next up, 2350 to 2400. Looking good. So beautiful, beautiful. All right, so oh god, bearish 30-second candles. Oh no, it's going down, guys. Breaks down below 65,750. We're looking for the low side, 65.5 down here, 65,400, that 4-hour pivot. Coming into the last 9 minutes of the 4-hour candle here. Yep. Renee says that's what I wanted to hear. I'm assuming talking about USDT. Yes, all those lost. This 30-second chart might give it away, actually. But I mean, we're just taking a closer look at the live auction. Yeah, it's fine. It's consolidated. I do think this is consolidation, or it will become reaccumulation on any lower lows. Or reaccumulation schematic. Maybe even a Wyckoff one. But then there's the danger that it could be a distribution. Oh no! Don says in 1999 I was buying Pokemon cards and Panini stickers. Oh man. See, I missed the Pokemon stuff. Missed me. I was a little too old. I wasn't watching the show. Wasn't doing card trading at that time. I was into like football and baseball cards. I'm becoming a teenager, an older teenager, and being a jackass. That's what I was doing around that time. Complete and utter jackass. High or low? if it takes out the upper second at 65,966, we could be seeing a trip into 66K. Go test these highs over here around 66,100 to 66,200. Break out above there and reclaim this low at 66,100, and then we could be looking up to 66,280 to 300. Wow. Hey, technical analysis is actually pretty easy. Just look left. And the big thing is you have to understand it's a live auction, and everyone is basing their buys and sells off of historical price ranges, right? Off of those highs and lows. So what you really need to pay attention to is how you're going to take advantage of it. Not other people's opinions. If you want to take my opinion, I greatly appreciate that, but you need to check it on your chart and you need to adjust in real time. And my opinion should only be a confluence or a counterpoint to what you may believe is going to happen. The chart is going to tell you everything that is happening and will happen in the future if you assign conditional areas of interest to it. Then it's all about trading it. Many people overcomplicate their charts, and by overcomplicating it, they make it much more difficult to actually trade it. Don't overcomplicate it. Keep it simple. It is the KISS theory. Keep it simple, stupid. And understand why you're making that trade. And you won't go wrong. Yeah. Out here it is almost 1 p.m. So we're about 5 minutes to close on the 4 hour. Looks fine where it is right now. We'll see what happens. Might dip down to like 65,700 if we can't hold this area, but then we watch for that possible move to 65.5. 65.4, which is likely going to be the updated pivot here in about 5 minutes, so we'll hang out. More than happy to chat with you till then. Can I look at Sol? Yeah, we can look at Sol. Solana. I know a lot of you trade this. I'm probably going to do a dedicated video on Solana here shortly. But let's go look at Sol. Sol has been snatching souls for a while, especially on the short side. Hey, look, it's around that 184 region. I think this is a chart that I had drawn up when kind of explaining to Loki what I was looking for. Hit that upside, double top. Oh no, it's all over on the daily. It's actually not all over until you start seeing closes below 169 that drop that 162. Then we would be looking for expansion to the downside in more aggressive fashion to like 160, but for right now it's fine. This needs to go away. It's trapped in between two weeklies right now at 174 on the high side, and it keeps deviating this 198 to 200 area. This is a compression on the weekly, so this is setting up for a much wider move. Ultimate targets is to go retest that 250 to 260. It's that all-time high zone. If it does begin to break down from this local area, begin to close below the lower second standard deviation, pay attention to 162. It starts to drop that, we're looking down to somewhere around 150 to 145. Below there, it must hold 135. That would be a really big reaccumulation structure if it was going to be bullish, or it would turn really horribly bearish. I doubt that's what we're going to see, but you never know. Nothing's out of the question, that's for sure. This is a consolidation as it stands right now, so you do want to see some sideways consolidation before a move either to the upside or downside. Any closes above 205, you're looking at that 210. Above there, you're looking for expansion up to 250, 260 and beyond. And like I said, any expansion to the downside, you're looking about 150 to 145. Below there, you're looking around 135 to 140. That's your risk to the downside. or if you're short, you risk to the upside on those upside moves. Daily Stoke is pointed down. Close above 190 would turn that back up. It's about $4 or $5 below that. Nothing crazy. This thing's been hot to trot. Little consolidation wouldn't hurt it. Move down to 160, 150 wouldn't hurt it either. See, that's the upper first standard deviation on the weekly, and would likely occur if Bitcoin starts to break down more aggressively towards some of the deeper targets we talked about earlier in the stream. Below there, you can see the basis band moving up into a bullish position above the prior breakout zone, which was coming in at 112 to that 125 wick high. So still bullish even if it was to drop down to there from the weekly time perspective. The weekly is looking ready to turn on any moves down below 188. Again, I'm looking for bullish resets on the weekly over time. Monthly's a little hot to trot, 190 to keep it up there. 2 month, not enough data. So, this thing can defy all those longer term time frame things. 4 hour though is pointed up on any closes above 180. How does that compare to the 12 hour? 12 hours down below 196. So you need to see it hold the zone and reset the 12 hour for momentum. Make sure that the 4 hour isn't turning as the 12 hour is trying to turn up, because then it's probably going to play back to the lows somewhere around 180, 177 or so, and then reevaluate. Right now it is trying to play out a drive of hidden bullish divergence. So far it's kind of hit the primary target to the upside around 192, but if it can start skating above there and 195 specifically, then we're looking for 200 to 205 again, maybe even 210 up here. Above there, expansion on the 12 hour. This is nice compression. So if you're more bullish, you're probably looking for this to result in expansion. You've got the bullish divergence, hidden bull div right here. You would be essentially, if you're bullish, you're looking for closes above 200 to initiate expansion to get that rolling up to the mid 200s, mid to low 200 region. Just be aware of the breakdown. Any closes below 176, 175, and looking at expansion to the downside. And if this starts closing 12 hours above 200, you're probably looking for upside expansion. That's the upper second. Closes below 175. Look out below. Probably looking 160 to 170 first, and then evaluate from there into the 150, 145 area. Yes, in bull markets, it does pay off to be a little bit more bullish than bearish. But that doesn't mean that, being bullish in the midst of a downside expansion is not smart. So you're just waiting for it to find its low, and then you can roll with that. Typically opportunity, not financial advice though. Do your own research. It can all go to zero. Much like the dollar is doing against Bitcoin, it's going to zero. I was reading such an interesting thread. George Gammon had mentioned he's in Argentina and no one takes Bitcoin, no one takes cryptocurrencies. Everybody wants their local currency, even though it's hyperinflated, or US dollars if it's bigger transactions. And it's like, okay, well, how about you go try El Salvador now? You're going to find they're using local currency there as well. Now, we're going to get into a little bit of a landy chat because I think Bitcoin maxis are fooling themselves. I think the Bitcoin maxis have a bit of a problem, and they're premature in thinking that Bitcoin is going to become money. And I am a Bitcoin maxi. I am all about Bitcoin. All right, so big thing you got to understand is Bitcoin has a low likelihood of becoming a currency itself, where everyone is using it as a medium of exchange, at least as it currently stands right now. Barring some fundamental changes to the network, I think it will be a reserve asset for fiat currencies in the future. I think it's actually much bigger than that. I think that Bitcoin is going to become the base layer of energy, of the metrics or measurement of the energy output of society at large. That's a much longer time frame. We're talking decades. I do not see Bitcoin, becoming the US dollar, let's say, right? That is not what I'm looking for. I think that other fiats and other systems will be built on top of Bitcoin. Now, I'm not talking about the network directly, I'm talking about in terms of reserve assets, much like what El Salvador is doing, much like what other countries are attempting to do as well. You're probably going to hear about some countries doing this, at least bolstering a portion of their portfolio, so to speak, or treasuries with Bitcoin. It's also a hedge play against the US dollar, which is why you see the big AUM companies, assets under management companies, your BlackRocks of the world, your Fidelities of the world. It's why you're seeing them really go hard on the pitch for Bitcoin, is because it's a hedge against the fiat currency system et al, or in totality. Because if something were to happen, they can then siphon AUM into Bitcoin and buoy it, as well as have it pump. And even by buoying it, if everything goes down versus it, Bitcoin is becoming more valuable, right? It becomes that store of value. And I do think that is the play for Bitcoin, at least in this decade. We'll see how that plays into the latter half of the decade and into the next decade. But, I think maxis are very, very premature in their call for it. It needs to be money. It's not going to be money. I don't think it'll ever be money. I think it's going to be way more than money. And if you're thinking about it, Bitcoin as money, I think you're thinking about it wrong. You're not thinking big enough. You're thinking small brain peon thoughts. And you need to start really expanding your thinking, because Bitcoin is going to become the base layer energy output, the base layer for energy output of society as a whole. And it's going to take a long time to get there. There's going to be a lot of micro fights in between about the network and what should be done, and who should run knots, and who should support ORDs, and what's spam and what's not, and what's block size. What block sizes should we use, and security of the network, and layer 2s, and how they interact with layer 1s, and the opcat command. All of it is going to continue, and it's going to get stupid and silly as people look right past what is actually happening with Bitcoin. When you see your local energy company, much like the local energy company that's local to my area, starting to run Bitcoin miners during the non-peak hours, then you start to understand what's really going on. When you see cities starting to fire up Bitcoin miners at City Hall, and you're starting to get a glimpse of the real future of Bitcoin. And it's not because it's gonna be money. It's not because you're gonna go to the corner store and sell your Bitcoin. It's a finite asset. Yes, it can be denominated down to Satoshis, but who wants to freaking give it up in such a tenuous situation like we find ourselves now with fiat currencies? And it's only going to become more tenuous. It's only going to become more dangerous to hold fiat currencies over time. You will see, if a particular candidate gets back into office, the US dollar come back in a big way. But I do think you're going to see a simultaneous run. You will see big downticks in Bitcoin, but you'll see a simultaneous run in Bitcoin and USD again. You'll probably see gold and silver also get at least a nice consolidation period, initial bear market to consolidation period, stuff like that. But I think in terms of macro, Bitcoin is on a different cycle. It's blazing a path all its own outside of the fiat system. With fiat system, it's the black hole for the fiat system, so it's going to blaze its own path in terms of liquidity cycles. Are we in the fourth turning or third turning or whatever the hell you want to call it? Maybe, who knows, who cares? Do only what is available for you to do, and what's in front of you, and take the opportunities that present themselves. Now, that getting into a wider conversation about ordinals and things like that, whatever. Spam on the network, be pissed about it, whatever. Fork it. Fork the damn network then. I mean, the plans are already in place for a BTC-ORDS or something along those lines that could run as a layer 1, or just bringing everything to layer 2. Now, of course, they want the opcat command for layer 2s. That would be very helpful, and it would actually take a lot of the pressure off of networks, but also opens up a lot of new security holes in Bitcoin. And Bitcoin right now is the most secure, the most immutable network on the planet, and don't think you want to mess with that. So aspirations are huge right now for the potential for Bitcoin to become the ultimate shitcoin network and bankrupt all the shitcoin networks, hoover up all their liquidity. Can it happen? Sure, it might happen actually. It's more probable than not. But Bitcoin, in terms of its fundamentals, will remain. Everything else, by and large, in comparison to Bitcoin, will fade away into the annals of history. No, not annals of history. Most of it is pretty anal. It's pretty ass. But yeah. Speak with such confidence on this. How do you know it's going to happen? I'll tell you. Let's go to the 3-month chart. Let's go to not CME. You see this chart? This chart is just getting rolling. This is the quarterly time frame on Bitcoin. It's just getting rolling. Bitcoin is young. It will go up forever versus fiat currencies, because fiat currencies are not fixed supply. So it's going to go up forever. So something will have to be done in order for society to actually make good use of it versus fiat, which eventually will change what fiat is. It will change what society is. And if you don't recognize it now, you will definitely recognize it later. It's one of a kind, yep. A one of one, ultra rare, $65,700 for your ultra rare. Yep. You thought 2020 was crazy with Magic the Gathering card auctions and video game auctions and shit like that? Wait. Next crisis. Bitcoin is all of that. And then some. They can still make new Mario games. They can't make the 88 Classic or 85 Classic. Shit, I don't remember now. But they can still make new Pokemon cards. The supply isn't fixed. They can still make new Magic the Gathering cards. Supply is not fixed. Historical significance of a specific card from a specific set, sure. But you know, it is something that you have to understand is not, it's not going to change. They're not going to increase supply. And if they did, they're going to fork the network, and it's not Bitcoin anymore. There's only one Bitcoin. There is no second best, and you shouldn't second guess that there is a second best. There is no second best. Saylor is right when he says it. The ultimate Bitcoin hype man has it correct. Stuff that many of us were talking about years before he actually came into this market. Back when he was a critic of it, by the way. But he flipped real quick. So did Fink. Think about why Fink did so. All you got to do is look at what's happening in the economies around the world, and the guys who want to maintain their power as economies begin to fall apart and things begin to shift. I mean, the widening gap between the elite and the regular everyday person, the working stiff, so to speak, is really hitting its stride, and it's only going to widen further. But markets are up. My portfolio is doing well. Really? Well, your portfolio, in comparison to the elite's portfolio, who had much more to invest and power over governance of those investments prior to investing in them, that gap is getting wider than it's ever been in history. And it's only going to continue to widen, even if, quote, your candidate of choice gets into place next election or later this year, coming into 2025. Doesn't matter. It's still going to occur. So it is a path that is set in stone. And we had a seismic shift in 2018, not 2019, not 2020. It occurred in 2018. And if you don't know what happened in 2018, you need to go look very closely at the battle for the Fed and the Treasury. And you need to understand what really happened and how the nails were put in the coffin of fiat currencies around the world at that time. And everything since then has been a response to that, because there was some big bad plans headed our way back in 2018, headed into 2019 and 2020, and it was blunted full stop. And those plans were put on hold, new plans were drafted, and you now know about all of those plans. CBDCs, lockdowns, censorship, all of that shit out there in the open. It would have been a slow roll into it. You never would have noticed if in 2018 what happened there between the Fed and the Treasury did not occur. If that didn't occur, you would have never have known. You would have never have known. Go do your research. It's not up to me to tell you. You need to go do your research. ETFs are a response to what happened in 2018, and it was a give in. Shit, we have to do this. That's what ETFs were. We couldn't kill it in the manner in which we wanted to kill it coming into 2022, 2021 into 2022. We ran it up. We had everybody exiting, and we got retail out. We flushed the market in terms of exchanges, FUD and VCs, and everybody collapsing left and right, but yet it remains. Bitcoin stayed steadfast. It didn't go to those levels that even the experts were predicting. Even the TA crypto guys were predicting much, much lower, and it didn't go there. In fact, it rebounded in a much bigger way, because there's a metagame going on here between nations. And if you don't understand that, you are trading from a position of disadvantage. This is much bigger than retail flooding the markets with liquidity. Much, much bigger. Retail flooding the markets pales in comparison to what market makers on the other side, if given the green light, can do to these markets. And because they didn't, they exercised restraint, fudded it until they couldn't fud it anymore, and then flipped on it. And I do think it's a genuine flip. This is a genuine flip to save face. Because if they don't save face now, when things really start to get rolling and we see the problems in the financial system come to fruition, where's the escape route? They needed their own escape route, and they'll come out looking like roses on the other side. But it's going to be a different world when they do. And then they want to absolve themselves of all their sins on the other side, all the bullshit that they were doing, because now they won't be able to do it. You have an open ledger system where people can take a look for themselves and see exactly what you're doing. And at some point, we're going to get there. Again, this is the long game. We're talking end of the decade into the next decade. This is a very long game. Just because things are hitting fever pitch in the political spheres and the amount of pain that you're feeling right now in your finances when it comes to, the disparity of income, the costs rising on everything, that's going to continue. It's not going to go anywhere. It'll ebb and flow. New guy in office, same guy in office, doesn't really matter. It's going to ebb and flow. But you see the fundamental changes happening around the world. This goes beyond, you know, its root is the financial systems, believe it or not. But it goes to what's happening with non-sovereign borders all around the world. And it doesn't matter which way you feel about that, whether you're all for it or all against it. It doesn't really matter. You have to understand that the world is changing. And why is it changing? What is happening? It's a struggle for control. Bitcoin is a check on control through the actual financial system that will lead to a societal system. And there are those now who are giving in via the ETFs. When they all started filing, the big guys started filing, like BlackRock. That was the big domino to fall. When they gave in, it's a wrap. That's their hedge, and it's only going to be a growing hedge. If you think that 1 to 3% portfolio recommendations for assets under management in Bitcoin is going to stick, just wait till they allocate 5%, 10%, 15%, 20%. And then in the horrible scenarios, they start flooding liquidity over to the tune of 50% because they need that fucking hedge. And if you don't understand this now, you're going to see it happen. And when it starts playing out, think back to me talking about this, please, because it's going to happen. It's very, very slow at first. Slow, and then all at once. So just be prepared. Buy Bitcoin. Learn how to run a node. You don't need me to get started, okay? All you need to do is go and you can look up BitX pleb miners. You can look up little lottery miners. You can look up how to build your own. You could even go with Raspberry Pis. You'd probably be better off running knots because you're going to have trouble with all the other stuff that would have to be stored. But you could run a virtual machine on your local computer system. Allocate some resources to it. If you want to run a full node, I would recommend 1 to 2 terabytes, 2 terabytes preferred of storage. It can be external storage. That way you can download and sync the entire blockchain for Bitcoin and run a full node, have access to all of the bells and whistles and features that come along with that. Or you can run a pruned node and just contribute to the security of the network and manage your UTXOs and manage your wallets from there as well. You will not be able to store ordinals. You would need a full node, and you would need to download and install the ordinals GitHub packages so that you can actually have a wallet recognize those ordinals. So there is that as well. Speaking of ordinals, let's go ahead and take a look. I'm going to deviate for a second and talk about ordinals because a lot of you are here from the ordinals community. Let's go ahead to Magic Eden real quick. The next big thing in ordinals is going to be runes. Everybody already knows about it. The hype is here. The hype is real. You even have runes, pages popping up on all of the different marketplaces. So what's going to happen to actual ordinals? Well, you're going to see a runes run, and it's either going to be a big bull run on runes. That's going to be a black hole of liquidity for literally everything in this space. You'll likely get profits taken out and putting back and rolling back into ordinals. But then once that run is over, you will definitely see ordinals pop again. It is going to happen. It is not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. That is not something that is easily predictable without good charting websites. So if you can find a charting website that can chart ordinals, all you need to find for me is something that's reminiscent of the DEX's charts, like TradingView charts, that can show the history, the trading history of the ordinal in question and volume, and then I can start charting ordinals for you. So ordinals are the ordinal protocol. Sorry, I brushed up against the microphone Ordinals are the ordinal protocol. It's taking advantage of the Taproot upgrade and the inscriptions. It's a way of assigning sats, historical. It's a way of enumerating satoshis, and then having a structured way of referencing those satoshis so that you can do things like put funny pictures into the blockchain as data inscribed to specific satoshis. So it's its own. I know that people in ordinals hate this, but it is non-fungible tokens, and fungible tokens are runes, BRC20s, and so on and so forth. But they're basically NFTs. They're called ordinals. Don't call them NFTs in front of your ordinal friends. You might get smacked around. But they are non-fungible. And some of them even create fungible tokens after the halving here with runes. But there's going to be a big runes run. The runes will likely be a liquidity black hole. You're going to see a bump in some ordinals during that time frame, but then when the exit from runes happens, it's going to roll back into ordinals. You're probably going to see all of this likely occur around altcoin runs and stuff like that. So, runes are positioning themselves to be the altcoins of Bitcoin, and likely going to move in a big way. Did you say BCH is always fun? BCH is absolute trash, and so is BSV. But that doesn't mean that they won't pump versus the US dollar. Let's go look at that 4-hour close on Bitcoin. See what the momentum pivot updated to. We did get that 30-second move down to 65,700. I saw that. All right, so ever so slight increase, 65,664 for the 4-hour pivot. Again, that 6-hour pivot is currently the K is above the D read, but it's looking a little weak. 65,600 rather would turn that back to the upside. Of course, that is closing with the next 4-hour candle. So again, reference the beginning of the stream with all of the areas of interest that I talked about, and the criteria that needs to be met for upside and or downside. That is going to do it for me today. We've been streaming and talking for a while. I do really, but BCH just had its halving. You're gonna make me do this. You're gonna make me go and look at a BCH chart. Wow, look at that. It went up a lot. It's halving. It's gonna fix all of the problems with Bitcoin Cash. To be fair, if it holds above the basis at $500, likely to continue its march to the upside here. And I'm sure that people won't be selling off this 618 because they know that they needed to exit somewhere around $600 to $700. Nice move to the 618. If it does push up, hold that basis and push back up, you're likely going to see around 700 to 800 between the 1786 if it can pass that 618 on a close at 682, then you're likely going to see 700 to 800. You might even see it start moving up in a more aggressive manner over time on the weekly. This is pretty expanded right now, so it could even come all the way back down to like 460, 450. And it's still fine. Breakout was retested here. It's gotten around this prior cycle lower high. Next area would be that $800, and then maybe it tries for this $1,000 to $1,200 up here at the 3 spot to the actual $1,500 to $1,600. Could it do it? Yeah. If it starts to break out above there, good for BCH. And then go down 99.99% in the next bear market. Other than that, it's fine for right now. Looks good. Expansion is good. It's still expanding above 585. There's no reason not to trade it, but in terms of fundamentals, this is garbage. So is BSV. Yes, the good old BCH versus BTC chart. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. Yeah. We gotta go to Binance for that. Oh my God, it's a breakout versus Bitcoin. Oh, you know what? New Bitcoin is back. Oh no, it broke out right into resistance overhead. Oh no. Oh no, wait. We were too zoomed in. Oh geez. Oh dear. But this is the big reversal, guys. It's a higher low on the weekly. We've got a structure change. It's just got to close above. Let's see, 63,300, or no, million Satoshis? 1,800,000 or something like that. And then it's on. The actual Bitcoin will run. Just like BSV. It's all going to be roses from here. I can feel it. You know, above 740,000 Satoshis, it's going up, baby. Moon time. Moon time. Look at the monthly above 627,000 Satoshis. It's amazing. This is gonna blast off to outer space. It's gonna be almost 1.8 million Satoshis, and then 2 million, 2.7 million Satoshis, and then it's gonna be equal to a Bitcoin from there. Just one Bitcoin up here. It's going to be half a Bitcoin first, 0.41 Bitcoin to a half a Bitcoin, and then it's going to be equal to Bitcoin. It's going to happen. Don't worry. I'm not lying to you. I am the real Bcash bull. The real BSV bull and Bcash bull. It's me. It's been me the whole time. I developed these protocols myself. Bring me to court. I'll show you. Because I know that I was the real creator of Bitcoins. So, yeah. Nice little rally. Probably going to do well. Maybe even break out. And do some cool stuff. Make some people some money that are trading it. But if you're long-term invested in any of that shit, you know that it's garbage. And I did want to just pull this up real quick. Be aware of the closes. Be aware of the quarterly at 58.8. That's what Bitcoin needs to hold. Worst case scenario to the downside, we're looking at 50K, 53K after that. Upside, hold 65, recover 69 to 70, and go from there. You have a wonderful morning, afternoon, and evening, no matter where you are in the world. Please trade safe, and of course, as always, stay safe. With all of that being said, Landy out.